Now, let us examine the reasons. Keynes, watch the space. Let us examine the reason. Now I'm going to show you why Ghana must, and I say Ghana must exit ECOWAS. And this is why. Let us examine the reasons why we believe Ghana must strongly consider exiting ECOWAS, much in the same spirit that the United Kingdom exited the European Union through what? Through one individual called Nigel Farage in Britain, campaigned vigorously for the United Kingdom's exit from the European Union. His campaign was anchored on the argument that the decisions being made in Brussels were not democratic. Okay? Go and research. Quite fast Britain, a free European Union, in the same spirit, we are telling the leadership of this country, let's begin and consider the need. Say we have to leave ECOWAS. You free more be BNC. Nipa bako. Onukwa o jina ne naisu katre. The British people said Britain must leave where? On free European Union. And for so be any so. Na Tobeka said the whole European no. When no more just say one more shock and as absorbers and as when we di mupa ye can so mudi akwete na European Union Britain ana na so omo so ni nipeku ana omanya wo mo consider say no wo mo ntina European Union na why and all this adi eba enye government you know one individual called Nigel Farage. Go and check Nigel Farage and Ugina vigorously campaign said Britain must leave European Union. Now, baby says reasons Ben or they can answer way. As part of this long struggles, Nigel Farage consistently campaigned against Britain adopting the European single currency, as well as against the push for what? Open borders for EU framework. Unim niema or the campaign again or the campaign or say here borders na yebe bien basa. I feel so say the whole European Union yeba be disika baako to the extent say the Queen of England niti ebekwa kwoshe euro nasie enye adwuma. These were some of the things that Oyusu the campaign is a Britain and yet the free EU. Now, Britain resisted joining the euro, but it's remained tied to the EU policies. When the European migrant crisis erupted, the issues Farage had warned about began to make sense, even to many of his opponents, giving greater weight to his argument and fueling the movement that ultimately led to Brexit. Ebra no oye campaign nipa bebre ante Nigel Farage asie. But Ebra adebi started say confronting the British government ohona bebre ti ase there be asema papa ye okay ehu hia na se ye den ye de kwa adwendwemu afi wonu a kaseti a Nigel Farage na de o manu twitwi fom na nyoma no oye den all campaign e bi ni say e bi ni the migrant crisis na say na eye won say because of European Union inti amanfrafo nya adetrada ewura Britain so no ye English for ye ntimi ntrase na ye makwan e masabe amanfrafo e mbehye ye man ni mu o e meye nyoma ensam fata. Nigel Farage the campaign say and or the chance or the migrant issues and the borders are ye bi and here can say there is a fight between Ghana and friends say ye ne Burkina Faso border no so ayehye pa e kwa be mu a ye ne ye correspondence or Sahel region obedi nkomo ye ka say hwe border aflawo border any other borders are entry edi Ghana ni na porous but officers enye ECOWAS entebane ye entitled here in your ye Rollins time yet it was only until this your so-called intellectual presidents, whatever they call themselves, no one bio na ECOWAS na den asiasem kwa Enuni ene ya Nigerians ebe wura womo de ensa ebe wo yeni no. Britain migrant crisis became the center of the discussion as far as Nigel Farage was concerned. Now, the British right-wing movement were deeply concerned about the growing powers of the European Union. At the time, there were strong calls from pro-EU advocates for Britain not to fully embrace the Union, but also to surrender certain sovereignty powers, including even proposal that Britain's army be placed under European Union command structure. Now, enipakubi from the right-wing movement for omini briye. Now, right-wing for no at a point, and I'm saying no muntini maybe I say, but the more muntini maybe I say who say, hey, now say na EU ni beko, then it means that the EU no Britain ekwako join no. Automatically, Britain is going to surrender all her powers, including the British Army, under European Union. Now we say, hey, yeah, Makwai. The right-wing movement stood and started what? Championing the same campaign as far as Nigel Farage was concerned. Ghanaians, show. To many British patriots, this was unacceptable and, of course, confirmed their fears that the EU project threatened national sovereignty. After who said no, there be going to join EU no, and yet just joining EU keke there be. Not just say your manya ya di ya huo ye na ye we to me obia woni to me. We are sovereign nation. Why must we surrender our powers to the European Union? Because the moment you go under European Union, that's, the individual states do not or no longer have their self-power and sovereignty. You've surrendered. And one person, looking at all of the above, some people began to figure that the entire process was part of what? A hidden agenda working toward the idea of one world government, one world religion, and one world army. Concept long spoken in the biblical prophecy. For such observers, the European Union was not just a political or economic project, but rather a step in a larger global design that threatened the sovereignty of nations and the freedom of their people. When we say the nipa be dream, of course, say the Bruni dream. One say no, I deal with na European Union, one more champion, sad deal with. Eya de bia ehwo bakwasam ewo Bible no mu eyede ya ni na rubetimi tracy into Revelation 13 and more. Say the European Union is championing the biblical prophecy of what? The one world religion, the one world army, and one world government. No? And they could see clear there are certain elements within the system wamonso sebe onyankopon ensa womo, so they listen to God and God speak to them in many ways. And they know say no, so man sorry entia Britain that the British going to European Union that the assembly brewo. And this is what they did to save Britain, and that was the Brexit. Nigel Farage was one of the most vocal figures against mass immigration, warning that uncontrolled borders would undermine Britain's identity and security. Alongside him was who? Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson, then a journalist and later a politician, also emerged as a leading crusader for Brexit. Together, they what? Well, Adia Nigel Farage dijina super ne say immigration in some ne here some can say, oh yes, say the Konya enipa era Britain if you na ya homete. Ebio one say who say all the borders now cover Britain in na so no. Ni na so are porous. And there's a need to cover everything. But for Britain to get all of this done, it would be until Britain has exited European Union. And they succeeded. All right? He succeeded. Only later when they joining them, Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson was a journalist. So we knew he was a journalist before a politician. And together, they became what? They became a face of a movement that challenged the European Union's what? Open border policies and argued that Britain must take back control of its what? Laws, economy, and what? Frontiers. Sani pay me no. Ene minemo kase. See a two about Britain and more sub intellectuals or more Britain can agree with me say and they are two about Britain. Nigel Farage will win because he has won many seats already. A shocking the Labour and the Conservative for no cry. Yeah, one individual say, to me, dear, a boy, Britain, a surviving BC ne. All right, dear. Now, you say, no, and you might show, yeah, say there is a movement in the African region. One must say that the whole African, yeah, me come near your thing. Yeah, whatever. And even with the common currency for Africa, which is the ECO, and the is suffering paralysis. The currency of Africa, which is the ECOs, whatever, is suffer paralysis, notwithstanding our porous borders and the influx of migration in Asafwa. The very debilitating effects militating against all the nations within the African bloc. Beginning in here. Indeed, part of the broader agenda is to strip power. Part of the broader agenda is to strip power away from the individual nation states and transfer it to regional blocs. What this ultimately means is that nations would no longer have full control over their own citizens, resources, or state policies. Instead, sovereignty would be eroded and critical decisions affecting ordinary people would be made of regional what? Supranational level, far removed from the will of the people themselves. Asemini. And you say, "Sa amayama nkika ke komhu na mbom no. Sa mo ba ke kamhu bom a, afi tumi enimu uni tumi biomo. There be ye the tumi na koma the central power, the regional bloc. And the individual what? States any power biome. You no longer can control your citizens. You no longer can enact laws. You no longer can what? Ensure your citizens must go right or left. No. It's being determined by the regional bloc. What is this? What kind of a world that is coming at us? And many of you don't know that this world is with the speed of beam light is coming. And that is the moment the whole world, including your men of God in Ghana, who are completely dumb and do not know that the rise to power of the Antichrist is gradually coming as close. And Africa is not exempted. We are all going to be boxed in the crossfire. Waso for it to ho kwesiada wo mekwa sofi ho akwa kirekire Ghana for said the no mekọ ene dia tumidia ewiase ebe prediama no ho tumidia enipa bi ebe prediama mo ho no mo be di wiase so no Bible nanka so no mo abrofo no trobai antichrist and hu adwuma a started no waso for ntie do munima no mo Duncan Williams no mo agina sare ne kwanchi ankres ne otab ne dark word man no wom ko gira so dem a yinkwa prosperity nkwa sika no a sika money and all kinds of what self-style kind of prophetic language that completely empty. And so the Ghanaian doesn't know where we are going. We don't, including your politicians. After your politicians, many of them are demons. They know where we are going, and they are all parts of what? The global power. They are the decision makers, so they control the global political economic power. They know where they know what is coming, and they know that it's an unfriendly thing, absolutely untenable. But almost you know, let's go there. Britain. This is how the Brexit came into effect. Now, finishing them. These are same or some of the very reasons we believe that the ECOWAS project not helping the African region or or her citizens, given the troubling circumstance and the behavior of some actors within the region. There is very indication that ECOWAS has outlived its usefulness. Instead of protecting the interests of member nations, it increasingly erodes sovereignty and weakens local control. For this reason, ECOWAS must be what? Abolished with immediate effect and collapse. And Ghana, with immediate effect, must exit. Guys, take notes of my anthem for me. Ghana must exit what? The project, in order to safeguard her independence, resources, and the people. Because, and yes, sir, look, with the ECOWAS, we are going to surrender our resources. We are going to surrender our what? Our sovereignty. And we are going to surrender even our economy. Are we going or we are coming? Which one is this? Folks, this is Ghana Speaks Part 1. Going for a short break and I'll be back.